for the combined exhibit of Kente cloth of the Asante Kings and the Amistad exhibit that is now showing in our library, has been showing since the beginning of February. And I have good news for you. We will extend the showing of this exhibit through March 28th, at which time I hope that many of you will contact your social, church, and youth groups to call 718-270-4874 to book a tour of the exhibit, where we will have someone to give them an educational perspective of what is in our exhibit. This evening, we have to bring you welcome is a representative from the library, our deputy to the chief librarian, Dr. John Martin. Dr. Martin?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Suzine Nicolescu has asked me to read her message of greetings. She regrets that she can't be here this evening. She is a member of an international library organization, and her committee for library services on multicultural populations with members from 10 different countries is meeting today and tomorrow at the nearby Brooklyn Public Library. Today's meeting, she tells me, will run until after 9 o'clock this evening. Her remarks. I welcome all of you to a special meeting tonight to celebrate the art exhibits that have been part of a long month of Black history activities of Medgar College Library. As you may know, the library celebrates Black History Month along with other cultural and social activities throughout the year, because we feel the library should be a center of learning, viewing, and appreciation of beauty and truth for the preservation of culture. Since its inception, the library has sponsored such exhibits, but to be honest, the double exhibit, Kente, Cloth of the Asante Kings, combined with the Amistad collection, is one of the most exciting and thought-provoking art exhibits of them all. It will be remembered in our minds in the history of the college for many years to come. Fine arts need several viewings. Each time, something is different. The light, the mood, reflections. I've just learned today that the exhibit of these intriguing, beautiful works of art will be extended to Saturday, March 28th. So please return during the coming month and enjoy the works as often as you can. I hope that you do not regard the Black History Month only as an annual occurrence. Consider it as an extension of knowledge and learning to foster better understanding of ourselves, the people around us, and all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. To bring us greetings from our Student Government Association is its president, Mr. Paul Irvin. Mr. Irvin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely honored to be able to bring greetings on behalf of this wonderful collection that has been exhibited in our library. But to look at it, it just shows us what Africa is all about and what our ancestry is all about. Because if you look at the fine cloths woven from beautiful materials, you would see that knowledge from our own land came in two different ways. As today I came in the library and Dr. was presenting the works and the meaning of the works, we understand that in Africa we use the two sides of our brains, unlike the West. Unlike the knowledge taught in the West, where it's more theoretical, we use both the theory side and also the side the artistic side. So as a people, we develop skills not just by reading and writing, but by our art form. The tragedy of the Middle Passage goes a long way to reflect where we have come and how far we have come. This month is not just a month to celebrate, because you cannot celebrate when you still live under neocolonialism. It is a month to reflect, to be positive, to enlighten yourself of what happened 447 years ago on those slave ships coming in. We are honored, and on behalf, I am honored, and I would say on behalf of all of my colleagues in the Student Government Association, and I guess I could speak for the entire student body, that we were able to view these artistic works based on their substance and what they reflect. The King of Ghana, the Asante Kings of Ghana, very important to every black person in the diaspora. Amistad, very important reflection on our history. I do hope and trust that those of us who have not visited these exhibits as yet will take time out to look at them and reflect. Have a blessed evening, and God bless you all.
Before I introduce our provost, I know it's out of order, the program, but I think that now would be a good time for many of the people here in the college to see the people that have been working for a number of years to bring to you the kind of programming that helps us to keep aware of who we are, where we came from, and help us make decisions about where we are to go. I would like the members of the Library Black History Program Committee to please stand. You too, okay? Okay, please give them a round of applause. We have a very dedicated committee, including Octavia Ely over here on camera. We have been fortunate to have come to us to help us strengthen our infrastructure, to also act as an inspiration to faculty, our new provost, Dr. Kofi Lamonte, who will bring special remarks on the occasion.
Good evening. I was asked, I guess a little over a month ago, to give special remarks. And then I was asked today to fill in for the president to welcome you. So let me start by welcoming you. Thank you all for coming this evening to this very important event that, fortunately, is not actually a closing. It's sort of like a midterm assessment. So welcome to all of you. As I said, I was asked to give special remarks, and since you all don't know what the special remarks are or what they want me to do with special remarks, I decided to do two things that are both special. The first one is focused on this month's celebration of Black or African American History Month. And the second deals specifically with this dual exhibition that we've been privileged to have in our midst during this period. A few of you in the audience were at the presidential lecture series either at noon or at 7 o'clock yesterday. And to those of you, I apologize because I'm about to share with you something that I shared with the press persons yesterday, the story of a little boy named Joshua, which again I think is appropriate for this occasion, and also because of the fact that this exhibit deals with the, as Paul pointed out, the creativity of people of African descent all around the world. And I think this story of Joshua also highlights the creativity of our people. So please bear with me for a few moments. This is a story of a little boy named, actually his name is Theo. This is a story of a little boy named Theo, who woke up one morning and asked his mother, "Mom, what if there were no black people in the world?" Well, his mother thought about that for a moment and then said, "Son, follow me around today and let's see just what it would be like if there were no black people in the world." Mom said, "Now go get dressed and we'll get started." Theo ran to his room to put on his clothes and shoes. His mother took one look at him and said, "Theo, where are your shoes?" "And those clothes are all wrinkled, son. I must iron them." But when she reached for the ironing board, it was no longer there. You see, Sarah Boone, a black woman, invented the ironing board, and Jan E. Maxlin, a black man, invented the shoe lasting machine. "Oh, well," she said, "please go and do something to your hair." Theo ran into his room to comb his hair, but the comb was not there. You see, Walter Sammons, a black man, invented the comb. Theo decided to just brush his hair, but the brush was gone. You see, Lydia O. Newton, a black female, invented the brush. Well, this was a sight. No shoes, wrinkled clothes, hair a mess, even Mom's hair, without the hair care inventions of Madam C.J. Walker. Well, you get the picture. Mom told Theo, "Let's do our chores around the house and then take a trip to the grocery store." Theo's job was to sweep the floor. He swept and swept and swept. When he reached for the dustpan, it was not there. You see, Lloyd P. Ray, a black man, invented the dustpan. So he swept his pile of dirt over in the corner and left it there. He then decided to mop the floor, but the mop was gone. You see, Thomas W. Stewart, a black man, invented the mop. Theo yelled to his mom, "Mom, I'm not having any luck." "Well, son," she said, "let me finish washing these clothes, and we will prepare a list for the grocery store." When the wash finished, she went to place the clothes in the dryer, but it was not there. You see, George T. Salmon, a black man, invented the clothes dryer. Mom asked Theo to go get a pencil and some paper to prepare their list for the market. So Theo ran for the paper and pencil, but noticed the pencil lead was broken. Well, once again, out of luck, because John Love, a black man, invented the pencil sharpener. Mom reached for a pen, but it was not there, because William Purvis, a black man, invented the fountain pen. As a matter of fact, Lee Burridge invented the typewriting machine, and W.A. Lovett, the advanced printing press. Theo and his mother decided to head out to the market. When Theo opened the door, he noticed the grass was as high as he was tall. You see, the lawnmower was invented by John Bird, a black man. They made their way over to the car and found that it just wouldn't go. You see, Richard Spikes, a black man, invented the automatic gear shift, and Joseph Gammell invented the supercharged system for internal combustion engines. They noticed that the few cars that were moving were running into each other and having wrecks because there were no traffic signals. You see, Garrett A. Morgan, a black man, invented the traffic signal. It was getting late, so they walked to the market, got their groceries, and returned home. Just when they were about to put away the milk, eggs, and butter, they noticed the refrigerator was gone. You see, John Stanley, a black man, invented the refrigerator. So they just left the food on the counter. By this time, Theo noticed he was getting mighty cold. Mom went to turn up the heat. And what do you know? No heat. Alice Parker, a black female, invented the heating furnace. Even in the summertime, they would have been out of luck because Frederick Jones, a black man, invented the air conditioner. It was almost time for Theo's father to arrive home. He usually takes the bus, but there was no bus because its precursor was the electric trolley, invented by another black man, Albert R. Robinson. He usually takes the elevator from his office on the 20th floor, but there was no elevator because Alexander Miles, a black man, invented the elevator. He also usually dropped off the office mail at a nearby mailbox, but it was no longer there. But Philip Dowling, a black man, invented the letter drop mailbox, and William Barrett invented the postmark and canceling machine. Theo and his mother sat at the kitchen table with their heads in their hands. When his father arrived, he asked, "Why are you sitting in the dark?" Why? Because Louis Dowling, a black man, invented the filament and light. Theo quickly learned what it would be like if there were no black people in the world. Not to mention if you were ever sick and needed blood. Charles Dew, a black scientist, found a way to preserve and store blood, which led to his starting the world's first blood bank. And what if the family member has to have heart surgery? This would have not been possible without Dr. Daniel L. Williams, a black doctor, who performed the first open heart surgery. Theo and his mom had a great deal to think about. And so it's not an understatement to say that there is a tremendous amount of creativity within the African world. The second special thing that I want to do is talk about part of the significance of these two exhibits for me. First, with regard to the Amistad collection. It has significance for me for a number of reasons. First of all, it demonstrates, again, the creativity that our people possess. But also, my wife, who last year completed her master's in law degree, did her thesis on the Amistad. And so we have spent a number of hours reading, writing, studying about the Amistad. And of course, we, like many of you, have seen the film. And so the mere mention of the Amistad has a tremendous, of course, some of the feelings of my wife are not good feelings, but they have tremendous, the thought of the Amistad has tremendous, creates tremendous feelings for us, positive and powerful feelings, as we reflect on that travesty of an experience as it existed here in this country, that the strength and the wisdom and the foresight exhibited by the Africans who experienced that travesty is certainly reflected in this exhibit that we have before us this month and next month. The second exhibit, the Kente cloth exhibit, is also significant. I didn't mention this to Dr. Schiffer, but 10 years ago I was on the executive board of the National Council for Black Studies, and she exhibited for us at our convention in Los Angeles. And I had an opportunity to meet her there to see the work that she has done and continues to do. But I also, for the last 25 years, have been traveling regularly to West Africa, specifically to Ghana. I've traveled there on about 15 occasions now. And I always travel to Kumasi, to the surrounding communities, including Bonweir, which is the premier Kente village in the country. And it's unbelievable to observe what goes on in that community. People all around the world are trying to duplicate Kente. I duplicated is really an inappropriate word, because there's nothing you can do to even get close to duplicating Kente cloth. It's a fantastic art. It's beautiful. There's no exhibit. This is a fantastic exhibit, but there's no exhibit that can give you the full story of Kente cloth. It is truly a treasure in African culture. Those were my special remarks. And again, I'd like to welcome all of you this evening on behalf of the President's Office, my office, the Office of Academic Affairs. And I'd like to personally thank the members of the Planning Committee for the work that you've done. And I'm hopeful that you will consider me at least an honorary member next year.
Membership goes without saying. Honorary is very special. And we welcome you to the Library of Black History Program Committee. Dr. Ruth Schiffer was born in Brooklyn, New York, and educated in the Brooklyn Public Schools. She graduated cum laude from Queens College with a BA in political science. She did coursework at the School for Advanced International Studies, the Johns Hopkins University, and received a Master's of Art and PhD from Columbia University in the areas of comparative politics and African studies. While earning her doctorate after doing field work in local government and community development in Ghana, she completed a certificate in African studies, having learned the language of the Asante people in the process. She taught African studies and comparative politics at Temple University before becoming an independent educational and marketing consultant. Dr. Schiffer is a member of the National Council of Black Studies, the National Afrocentric Institute, African Heritage Studies Association, and Children's Book Award Committee of the African Studies Association. Since 1989, Dr. Schiffer has developed a series of educational programs on cultural diversity from an Afrocentric perspective for universities, public school systems, corporations, and churches. Excuse me. Her research focus since 1988 has been Asante, cloth of the Asante King. Kente, cloth of the Asante King, which she uses as an unconventional vehicle for teaching African history, geography, art and culture, as well as African American pride and self-worth. To go on with her many speaking engagements at the Paul Robeson Cultural Center at Penn State University Park, the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, Vanderbilt University in Nashville, as well as the Frank Hale Cultural Center at the Ohio State University and the Metropolitan State College in Denver. She also participated in Black Student Leadership Conference in Williamsburg, Virginia, sponsored by the College of William and Mary. Her public school educational programs range from in-service teacher workshops to cultural arts building programs for students grades 1 through 12. In Prince George's County, Maryland, her workshop serviced the Black Male Mentors Program. And in July, she provided the keynote presentation for the 7th National Infusion Conference, sponsored by the Indianapolis Public Schools. While in November, she did a workshop for the National Alliance of Black School Educators, who held their 22nd National Convention in Los Angeles. Without further ado, let me give you this evening's presenter, Dr. Harriet Schiffer.
Aquaba. Aquaba is the tree word for greeting and welcome. Hotep is the greeting to those of Kemet. But Habaragani. Habaragani is the language Kiswahili of East Africa. Now, if you were fluent in Kiswahili, you would say back to me, Njima Habaragani. Won't you try it? Njima Habaragani. Habaragani. Basically, what I've said to you is, what's happening? What's the news? And you said back to me that the news is good. And I hope at the end of our program today, you will find that the information I've shared with you is good and interesting and useful, and perhaps even empowering. But before I share that information, I always like to begin my program by asking the approval of the senior woman in the room for her permission to continue. In some cultures, in the United States, that's not a tribute, but in the cultures of Africa it is. And so if I may make that prerogative and ask the lady, if I may have your permission to continue. Thank you very much. There is a Yoruba proverb that says we build on the shoulders of those who come before us. And we need to appreciate those who came before us, because without their efforts, many of us might not be where we are today. Whether we look at Frederick Douglass, or we look at Martin Luther King, or we look at Malcolm X, we look at Harriet Tubman, who saved at least 500 people that we know about. Or if we look at Asante, the Queen Mother of the Asante people, who made the last effort in leading her people against the British in their final act of conquering the Asante people in 1898. Without knowing the past, we can't build a present and we can't build a future. Because history is the linkage between the ancestors, the present, and the future. And you may wonder, what is this lady from Brooklyn doing up here telling you about these things? I think I should add a few more items of information to the very nice information shared about me with Professor Bennett. While an undergraduate at Queens College, I found myself very much interested in political science, but as a female, being ahead of my time, the only thing open for me at that time was public administration, which I found boring. African studies was an area where a woman could go as far as her ability would allow. I had a professor whose specialty was Ethiopia and Somalia. I did an honors thesis at Queens College on Ghana and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And I got hooked. I got hooked on a man who had vision and on a country which was the first independent African country below the sub-Saharan desert. March 6, 1957 to be exact. I also thought that Africa was going to be very important to the United States in the future. And when I went there in 1968, before it was the in place to go, I found myself extremely impressed with communities where people were more important than things. And I found that very exciting, very valuable, and has kept me involved ever since. I've had the honor of traveling throughout West Africa, of working in countries diverse as Nigeria and the Côte d'Ivoire, though I've traveled to East and North and Southern Africa. It is for those reasons which are not revealed in the formal credentials that have been read that I think would like to share with you as well, to explain why this lady from Brooklyn is up here talking about Kente. Because you can't understand the local government and community development of a community if you don't understand their language and their culture. And so I learned to treat, before I went to Ghana, through some materials that I got from the Foreign Service Center, and then proceeded to continue working there. And in the course of learning about the culture, I took for granted that everyone knew what Kente was. That culture was part of everyday life. It's not something art, it's not something you just hang on the wall or visit on a Sunday afternoon. Music is not just a dance you go to on a Saturday evening. These are part of daily life within the African community. It is in doing this that I had the honor of meeting Dr. Malefi Asante and found out that other people didn't have access to this information. It was Dr. Asante who invited me to do my first program for his graduate class, the only PhD program on African American Studies in the United States at Temple in 1989. And that is when I began doing the educational programs that Dr. Bennett told you about. He acted as a mentor to bring me into the National Council of Black Studies, and I'm delighted that you still remember me. I had the honor of producing, my weavers produced the Kente scarf used by the National Council of Black Studies, the pattern of which the provost is wearing tonight. In fact, accidentally. It is very important when we look at Kente to distinguish it from the generic narrow strip weaving that comes from Africa. Anyone here see Coming to America? Raise your hand if you saw Coming to America. That was the current round of introduction to the African American community on African cloth and on Kente cloth. Anyone know Avery Brooks and the TV program called The Hawk? In the first episode of that television program, the Hawk wrapped a book in Kente and gave it to the old man as a symbol of respect. And in 1990, an esteemed leader who was just released from 26 years of fighting apartheid was given a ticker-tape parade down Wall Street. The man, Nelson Mandela. The country, South Africa, the current president. In 1990, he wore the cloth around his neck in that ticker-tape parade. But this is only the second or third round, depending on the point of departure, as has been pointed out to me by one of your professors and esteemed faculty members. Indeed, one has to look at Kente back in 1960s. The richly colored, highly intricately woven ceremonial cloth from Ghana was the cloth taken by the first generation of civil rights leaders as they sought their heritage and their history. The cloth was a symbol of Pan-African unity. It was made the national dress of Ghana in 1957. A significant piece was given to the United Nations, where it still hangs. And at Pan-African meetings, leaders like Kenneth Kayonda from Zambia and others also wore their cloth, wrapped toga style for the men, and wrapped in sets for the women, which I will show you. Kente cloth goes back to the 17th century. Won't you please open the packet of information I hope you picked up on coming in? And I'm sure the audience here is highly informed, but let's become Africa-centered for a moment. Africa is a continent, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a country. All too often in traveling around the country, I find that people do not recognize that this is the second largest continent in the world with 53 independent nation states. 3.5 times larger than the United States itself. But what do we learn or hear about the continent of Africa? Won't you find Ethiopia and Somalia in the Horn of Africa? Raise your hands when you see Ethiopia or Somalia on the map. What did we learn about Ethiopia and Somalia in the last 3 to 5 years? Famine, civil war, poverty. What about Burundi and Rwanda? Civil war, genocide. Anyone tell us about Zimbabwe? Same area. The greater Zimbabwe Empire in the 15th century? No one tells us about that. You hear about the beautiful art in the caves of South Africa that go back 26,000 years? 26,000 years in the caves of South Africa. And what about Lucy? Can anyone tell me who Lucy is? Our first mother, the ancestress of us all. The archaeological evidence found in Ethiopia by Dr. Johansson, the director of the Institute on the Origin of Mankind at the University of California in Berkeley. But he too is interesting. Lucy is the name he gave to the fossil remains because the Beatles song was playing on the boombox at the time. But Dermatash would be the respectful way of addressing this ancestress of Ethiopian background. But they didn't, because it's difficult for Americans to accept strange names as having significant importance. Kente cloth. What has this got to do with the origins of mankind? Well, it's very important. You can't understand the textiles unless you look at 3 important factors. First, West Africa had its own original species of cotton. 2, the trans-Saharan trade routes stimulated into existence significant and important West African kingdoms. And 3, the spread of Islam. For textiles, ladies and gentlemen, are a very unique art form. They are simultaneously a reflection of the political, religious, and cultural values of a society. They also are a unique vehicle for the exchange of ideas between cultures and societies. And textiles have been documented on the continent of Africa for more than 2,000 years. Carthage and Phoenician purple, 900 years before the Common Era, began distributing Tyrrhenian purple. 500 years BCE, horses were known to be among the Berbers. Camels, 100 AD and 200 AD. But the camels stopped. If you might look at your map and find Mali for me, go over to West Africa and find Mali. Just raise your hand when you see Mali. Mali is the home of the original Ghana Empire, the name from which contemporary state of Ghana took. Won't you find contemporary state of Ghana? You see that's southwest of Mali. But Mali was the home of the Ghana Empire, which emerged around 700 AD, lasted to about 1240. And it's because the exchange of trade, which you'll look on page 2, your next map, you'll see the exchange of goods, of salt and cola nuts and cloth from the north in exchange for gold and slaves from the west. And those camels which came with goods in 100 AD couldn't make their way past Kumbasala, the original capital of the Ghana Empire. And middlemen out of Kumbasala emerged, and in exchange for the security, they paid an import and export tax, the basis for the development of the Ghana Empire. And under Tunde Menon, an important king in 1065, they had an army of over 200,000. Their military operation included 40,000 bowmen. Anyone know what was happening in England in 1066 compared? Yeah, well, 1066. What was happening in England? The Norman conquest, which we learn about. They had a minuscule army of 15,000 altogether. The Ghana Empire already had administrative, economic, judicial, and political organization, providing for a standing army of over 200,000. Because of the importance of Islam in the north, King Tunde gave the same kind of respect for the Muslims who lived in a separate section. And we know about this from the Arab scholars. Al-Yazari, the Moorish geographer Al-Bakri, writing between 773 all the way into the 13th century. All of this is empirical information that can be verified. But we don't learn much about it. And if you look at a book as late as 1960 by Toynbee, we're told that Africa has no history, made no contributions to civilization. And we haven't even talked about Kemet, the joining of Upper and Lower Egypt in 3,100 years before the birth of Christ. But we need to learn about Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was the great king of the Malian Empire, which emerged about 1230 under the leadership of Sundiata. Anyone here hear of Sundiata? Not enough have heard of it, of Sundiata, either in the public schools or the universities. But Mansa Musa was king of the Malian Empire between 1312 and 1333. But he made an extraordinary holy Hajj in 1323. Can someone tell me what the holy Hajj is? A trip to Mecca. If you adhere to Islam, it is your duty to make a trip to Mecca. Well, Mansa Musa took 60,000 people with him in 1323, and he spent so much gold in Cairo, he depressed the price of gold for 10 years. But it's because of his exploits that Charles V produced the map in 1375, depicting Mansa Musa holding a bar of gold. So when the European mercantile system fell and needed an infusion of gold in the 15th century, they knew where to go looking, because of the exploits of Mansa Musa. On your map, find, if you will, for me, Mauritania. And get a perspective, geographic, on where the Malian Empire was. The Malian Empire went on to 1494, 2 years after that famous Italian first left his homeland. Mauritania, raise your hand, won't you please, if you see Mauritania. Now go north and find Algeria. Now go south and find Nigeria. Now you have a perspective of the location of the Malian Empire, which had over 10 million people within its territories. The great Songhai Empire was as large as Europe. It was 2,000 miles from east to west. And Ali Berber expanded the glories. But the importance here for us is that through the emergence of the empires, the exchange of ideas impacted on the development of narrow strip weaving. Kente cloth goes back to the 17th century. The strips for the women are 72 inches long by 3.5 to 4.5 inches wide. The strips for the men are 120 inches long. They were originally made out of raffia and cotton. But they are examples of narrow strip weaving found throughout West Africa, from Lake Chad in the east to Senegal in the west. They differ on the gender of who does the weaving and how wide the loom is. The looms among the Asante people are narrow and only 4 inches wide, and are produced on stationary looms compared to other weavers who travel with their loom and attach it to the tree to create the tension it needs. In contrast to, you'll see the young men weaving it in the video that I will share with you in a short moment. The cloth was commissioned by the Asante, the king of the Asante people. And the Asante Federation goes back to the 1690s, when Osei Tutu, a very well-trained diplomat, assisted by a Kofe Noche, the priest, brought down the golden stool on Osei's knee and established the Asante nation, the incorporation of 5 city-states, all who shared the same royal clan. But because this was a pyramid, the Asante needed to enhance his authority, and Kente became part of his regalia to enhance his office. And only those who were designated by him could wear the cloth. While the weavers chose the names and the names of the designs, the Asante never tried to control that. Only those he designated could wear the cloth. It's in the 18th century that the cloths become made out of silk. And we know about the cloths and the fact that the Asante was organizing their production because of a Scandinavian factor by the name of Nak, who visited what is contemporary Kumasi and saw the factory. But the Asante people didn't call Kente, Kente. Kente has become an American word to describe anything coming from the continent. I use the word as it's derived from the Fanti word kenten, which means basket. which describes the vehicle which transported it from Bongore, the first Kente weaving village, to either the Asante or those designated by him. They called their cloth ensasia. They were made out of silk which could be gotten from two sources, either from purchase from Salaga in the city of northern Nigeria, which had its own original silkworm, or other method was to take the clothing from those going on the holy Hajj, which were made out of silk, unraveling them, rewinding them on the bobbins, and then making their own wrappers to meet their own African aesthetic, which is what they did. The cloth is used among the Asante in important rituals, confirming his authority on the one hand, and the linkage with the community and ancestors on the other. When the Asante system became a meritocracy in the 19th century, and people acquired office not based only on their lineage, but based on their ability and achievement, Kente was utilized by those persons to indicate their new status and contribution to society. And the cloth was brought to the New World in the 1990s. It became the symbol of Afrocentric pride. By Afrocentric pride, I'm not talking about an ideology, I'm talking of exclusion, I'm talking about a statement of observation of inclusion, in which Africa becomes the focus of understanding one's history, of taking back one's history and pride, and of using it to build further. To me, Afrocentricity is based on a pattern of conduct rooted in the Ngubusa Saba, as articulated by Karanga, which has become a worldwide celebration. More than 25 million people celebrate Kwanzaa around the world these days. But it was Dr. Sudakasa, president of Lincoln University, who introduced the cloth to the academic robes. It is Dr. Sudakasa who has helped universities around the country accept and utilize the cloth for graduation. How many people here have either friends or relatives who have used the cloth for graduations? How many people here belong to a church where the pastor uses the cloth, pastoral stole? I hope he uses it more than February. In the beginning, that wasn't always the case. The cloth is 84 inches long, used by the pastor. It was first created by Nana Asante Frimpong for the Bishop of Kumasi, before it became more widely utilized in the United States, so that you have pastors like Dr. Butts and others utilizing the cloth. I'd like you to see the cloth, and I would like, if I might, I have a king volunteer. I need someone to wrap his Queen Mother, if I could ask for a volunteer to do that. Won't you just raise your hand and I'll identify? If you would, why don't you just come forward? I thought I heard someone said yes. Just one person. One female who likes to feel royal for a moment. Okay. Can you put on the video? Thank you.
Legend has it that humans learned the art of Kente weaving by observing the secret and sacred process of a spider weaving its web. However, history has it that
there are 24 strips in a man's piece. Can someone tell me how much 20 times 24 is? 480 different patterns in original. Ajuna Asa, I've exhausted my skills. I have run out of patterns, the origins of this particular pattern. Before I wrap, Paul, I'd like to extend my regrets and appreciation to those who know that the very wrapping of Kente is a ritual of respect to to the community and the ancestors. But because of educational purposes, I am going to put it on my model. It is not done in the same fashion. So for those of you who do know that, I extend my apologies. And for those of you who don't know, I extend your knowledge. You do the very putting on of Kente, the ritual of the putting it on, where you wear it, and how you wear it, are indicative of the spirit, the values, and the community of the Akan people. It is not just pretty colored cloth. It is the cloth used initially to enhance the regalia of the Asante in Ghana, but it has become, to some people in the United States, a cloth of healing, a healing of the wounds of the diaspora, a symbol of a heritage to be proud of, an enhancement that precedes man's inhumanity to man. We should not be deprived because of that heinous act. It needs to be understood. It needs to be worn with respect. It needs to be worn based on knowledge and not ignorance. But it should not be deprived of those in the world. At this point, I'm going to put this down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Paul to raise his left hand, because I lose my sense of right and left when I'm in front of the audience. Put it out as opposed to high, straight out. I'm going to take the cloth, I'm going to throw it over his shoulder, I'm going to bring it around under his right arm, and I'm going to pull it over, and then I'm going to turn the border so it becomes perpendicular to the pattern. For it's the border that was indicative of the status of the chief who was wearing the Kente in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. Traditionally, if someone came into the room and the Asante was there and they had on the same pattern, they would leave the room and go home and change. The 21st century is a little tougher, but the Asante still commands that respect. But a middle-level chief might not find himself as such respected if he was wearing the cloth.
This is worn with shorts underneath and sandals. It's worn when the new consulate offices of the Ghana Embassy opened in October 2 years ago. It was worn with ruffled shirts. Relax your arm.
It is the border and perpendicular to the pattern that would indicate whether this was the Asante or the status of the chief who was wearing it. This cloth was woven in the 1920s. It is made out of silk and cotton. It's valued at $3,000, ladies and gentlemen. And I throw out the dollar because in America, that's what makes something important, isn't it? The dollar sign. When I'm doing a public school program, the kids don't listen, but suddenly if I tell them the price, their ears perk up. So I thought the big people might enjoy knowing that too. Would you be so kind as to go to the back and let the audience look and see while I ask the Queen Mother? It is very interesting. You heard the narrator tell you, like father, like son, for the transference of Kente skills, reading skills, yet the Asante people is a matrilineal society. Inheritance and office goes through the mother's line. Things go from uncle to nephew, not from father to son, though bills are written by fathers in contemporary times to see that their goods are passed on to their son. But Kente reading skills are passed from father to son, unlike the general society. The Queen Mother is a very important person. She identifies the purity of the lineage and the successor to the kingship or chieftaincy. They know her bloodline. They can't always be sure of the father, but they know about the mother. The mother set, Queen Mother set, is comprised of between 25 and 32 strips, 11 to 14
become the bodice or skirt, let me introduce you to one of my favorite patterns. It is called Fatia, Fatima, and Kruma. It means Fatia befits and Kruma. It was derived, however, from a pattern that translates from tree to mean no man governs alone. Reflective of the principles of democracy, accountability, and community as you find within the Akan cosmology. And very important to me when my Ghanaian friends get upset with what's happened to Kente when it comes to the United States. Because in 1957, when this was renamed Fatia befits Nkrumah, Dr. Nkrumah had just married the Egyptian princess Fatia as part of his commitment to Pan-African unity. And the weavers thought it was very useful to re-identify a Kente pattern. So there are times for change. That doesn't mean change with ignorance, it means change with knowledge. And each square of this has a meaning. The zigzag is called Enchinchim, and it means ingenuity and knowledge, the snake for ingenuity and knowledge. Apokwa and Pua and Chrome, the 9 tufts of hair, represents the council of elders the device is achieved. And the significant about an authentic Kente strip is that the pattern in the center is distinct from, can I ask you to hold this, is distinct from the borders at either end. And in the border, most popular motif is Babadua, the bushel that looks towards the heaven, and Pruno, which is the cannons of resistance, and Envoltua, the snail for perseverance. And one of the ways of identifying authentic Kente strips is to look for their length, which is between 70 and 72 inches long for a woman's strip, and 120 inches for a man's strip, but also to make sure that there is a border on either side, distinct from the pattern in the center. Now, the man's strip I said was 120 inches. What is 120 divided by 2? 60 inches was the size of the first Kente strip sold here in the United States in 1989, 1990. Because that was what was easily available as entrepreneurial interest met the demand for Kente. The first strips you'll find, there's no border on both sides. You'll only find border on one half of the strip. Until the production of Kente increased. Now, Kente not only was increased locally by handlooms, as you saw here, but it was also increased by machines. Machine-made Kente strips, which I don't consider Kente, but I consider narrow strip weaving, was to be found in Senegal and Nigeria. You'll find in 1992 that 2 million yards of manufactured fabric was sold in the United States by ABC International. That fabric was manufactured in Korea on the one hand and in Abidjan, the Ivory Coast, on the other hand. And ABC International did extraordinarily well during the fad time. I think, and I'm very happy to see, that Kente has passed the fad time. I think it ended as a fad in '95 and has remained an icon of achievement and accomplishment on the one hand, and of healing and respect on the other, and of Afrocentric pride at a third level. An Afrocentric pride of African-centeredness, to me, is not an exclusive, or else I don't think I could be here and be giving my program to you this evening. But it is an important fact that is based on conduct, on values. Values to me which are reflected in the Gusa Saba, not necessarily in just taking a name or wearing African clothing. It requires conduct to go along with it, to be of an Afrocentric mold. And it seems to me Kente is an important symbol of that. This particular cloth becomes part of the Queen Mother's ensemble when I turn it into her bodice. And the cloth is turned under, and ladies and gentlemen, there are no safety pins, there are no buttons, and there are no stacks, and it does stay in place. It does stay in place. on the physiology of the Queen Mother, her skirt would be the same size. The rising sun. Oh, we are a pool. The sun, symbol of divine divinity. On marriage, you would wear it on your left shoulder. Marriage, you would wear it on your right shoulder. The Queen Mother. The cloth. The complete set of either of those patterns would cost roughly between $1,200 and $1,500. Now that's American dollars, but if you translate it into Ghanaian cedis, to have a commission, it would be as significantly expensive there. You will not find these Kentes sitting in the weavers' spaces waiting to be sold. They have to be commissioned because of the costliness of thread and the average weaver can't just keep an inventory. But there is a very interesting man by the name of Nana Asante who organized the village of Unu for the production of Kente to export. As there is in Bonmarais a fascinating weaver by the name of Samuel Kofi, who was an Ewe man from the Volta region who came to Asante and lived in Bonmarais and has become a master weaver to the extent that people all over Europe come to visit him, as they do to go to Muno. The member of parliament from Muno is the gentleman who brought Kente here in 1983. The patterns names of the patterns fall into three categories, ladies and gentlemen. They're named after a person, they're named after an event, or they're named after a proverb on the whole. So you have no man governs alone. You have the Ajun Asa, which is I've exhausted my patterns. You have this particular one called Abiduman Ayawelve. It's called The Wealth of Africa. But the difference that the walk makes can be seen I missed. The pattern is called Curating, to catch a lion. The title given to Prem in the mid-19th century. Of course, all kings can catch lions. Here you see the pattern in black warp. When you go out into the library, which I hope you will do, if not tonight, and look in the case to the entrance of the library, you will see this pattern in white, which I've used to make a wedding gown for. You can see the difference that the different colors and warps provide. As you can see right here, it being in purple, as opposed to black or white. So the warp can have a very important role on the look and aesthetic of Kente. In the audience, if you might stand, so each of you have a different, if you might stand. The pattern is called apostolon. It means family ties. Literally means the extended family is a force. That's the literal expression, apostolon. But I turn it into family ties. I think that also sums up what it represents. Would you stand? It translates between to air is human. Ma'am, you might stand. We have Achem, the shield, and I'd like to show you you 1,000 shields. That's Achapim, 1,000 shields. You need 3 different kinds of strips to be sewn together, so that as they're sewn together, it creates a bigger shield. The intricacy, creativity, and artistry of Kente weaving. From the simplest to the complex, from Achapim to Ajamina Asa. Clifford, would you just mind standing up and showing them in Kasawa? You're welcome, just hang it. Oh, it translates to mean eloquence. Thank you very much. Have I missed anyone? Yes, yes. Please stand. You have the purple cherry tree to catch alive. And you're wearing the woman's single strip, Ajamina Asa, which illustrates for me the fact that we've become part of the world village, ladies and gentlemen, as the Kente strips have gone from 3.5 to 4.5 inches wide to 5 and 5.5 inches wide. Americans like value for their money. They want a big bag. And so the very width of the Kente strip has changed predominantly so in the last 2 to 3 years. The Ebe Kente is a little wider in the loom that produces it compared to the Asante Kente. But the current ones that are being produced in the last 2 years are even wider. And we have black gold dust. And if you might stand, we have Ajamina Asa, the same as you, if you might stand, but we have it in a purple warp compared to the traditional warp, which is burgundy green, burgundy gold, burgundy, which you can see the thread sticking out of the bottom of the strip tells you what the warp is. The vertical threads that were laid by the young man in one of the villages. The richly colored, intricately woven ceremonial cloth is much more than a strip, a scarf, or a dress. It is a reflection of community that values family, children, culture. It's been brought to the United States. It's been used as a symbol of achievement and accomplishment. It is a reflection of a history to be proud of that goes way back before man's humanity to man, to when there were kings and queens and fishermen and ag farmers, doctors, adjudicators. Take back your history. Use the cloths, their kente or other narrow strips, or hand stamped pieces like the adinkra, which is on that particular display. And just to show you how things have changed when things go from one society to another, adinkra translates to mean farewell, goodbye. It is a cloth used for mourning in a Khan society. It is worn in white, black, or red by the immediate family. But in the United States, it has become also a cloth of celebration. It is worn for christenings, it's worn for dances, it is worn for other things than funerals. Kente is only a cloth of celebration. My Ghanaian friends do not like the cloth cut into because of its religious nature. I personally try not to do that so that the clothing I wear or have made for me have covered buttons, nothing is cut into. As I show you how it's worn modernly to this dress, which I try to keep it in a class of elegance and respect that a cloth deserves. But the cloth demands respect. You can only give it that respect if you take the time to do the reading, acquire the knowledge of your own history. If you would like to receive a bibliography, if you leave me your name and address, I'd be glad to forward it to you. There will also be a copy sent to Professor Bennett so that you can utilize the materials which have been put together for your particular interest. I love talking about this and history, but I think I will will stop here. I will answer 2 or 3 questions if there is time, or if there are any questions.
We're gonna have to move the program along.
Okay.
I would like to invite you to at least 2 questions from the floor. Okay, Professor Clifford, do you have any? You sure? Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Same one all over. This was for purpose of speeding along the explanation of the patterns by putting them together in one ensemble.
Okay. One other question, please. No? Okay, well, I do invite you to meet with Dr. Schiffer during the reception part out in the lobby. And before I ask Professor Izell Glover to bring closing remarks, we have a special presentation. Is Michael Valentine here, please? Michael Valentine. Yes, please, come forward. I didn't know when you had arrived here. Okay, Michael, if you have a few remarks, some of the students have to go on for other classes, I think. If you have a few remarks about the Amistad exhibit, I would like that, and then would you help me with the next presentation?
Good evening. My name is Michael Valentine. I'm the person blessed with the honor of managing the Amistad collection, a body of artwork prepared and executed by persons of African descent living in America. Originally, the collection would have been on its way to the Mystic Seaport Museum for a March opening, but I felt it necessary to bring the collection to a community entity, university, and I chose Medgar because while the works were being prepared, there was someone very special giving me some great advice and talking with me regarding the importance of art in the community and the importance of the community supporting the arts. And that's one of the reasons why I chose Medgar as the first university educational institution to house the Amistad collection. The works will be touring for the next 5 years and will probably come back to the United States in the year 2000. So you guys have the great pleasure of seeing a body of works that, you know, there's only one Amistad collection. There are many Amistad, there are a few collection of works that are called Amistad. You have one in New Haven, Connecticut that depicts original slave-related items, chains and artifacts that dealt with the Middle Passage. But this is a kind of a contemporary presentation of artists' interpretation of the Middle Passage and the Amistad story. But I'm not going to hold you guys if I know you've been here a while. The person that really encouraged me and spoke with me about the management of the collection and the importance of the works being as serious and seriously executed and also tastefully represented is a very good friend of mine, a mentor. Her name is Ms. Naomi Compton. And I'd like to ask her to come forward in 1 minute.
There's one college in the South that teaches the students when they first come into the college as freshmen about the Amistad. That's Talladega College.
Yeah, they have a foundation that deals with Amistad.
Michael and I and other members of the Library Black History Program Committee present this appreciation, floral appreciation, to you, Naomi Compton, who has dedicated her life not only to Medgar College, but to the Brooklyn community and the success of the African American people in Brooklyn. Thank
Thank you very much.
Okay, Isaac, would you bring a few closing remarks, please? This is Professor Isaac Glover, who has really been working hard here at reestablishing our art program at Medgar College. He's also a community-minded person, and you should know, and yes, he is a black cowboy. Okay, here is Isaac.
Thank you, Professor Bennett. Good evening, and I've had such a wonderful time just experiencing the Kente experience. I mean, I retrospect back when in the early 60s, when I was militant age and wearing my dashiki with the Kente symbols, and what it means, what I've learned a bit now. I mean, I could have learned that then. It was wonderful. I really appreciate it. It was fantastic. The Asante collection was really wonderful. I'm so glad it's going to be extended because it means so much to us here at Medgar College as well. Professor Bennett and myself, we have been doing some wonderful things. I'm going to say this because I'm really optimistic about my school here at Medgar College as well. And we have other shows that's going to be presenting. The Middle Passage by renowned Tom Feelings. There's several fantastic, wonderful exhibits of presenting community as well as national artists, black or what have you, to our students here, with the hope of inspiring them to pick up the baton of culture, become custodians of a great and wonderful culture. And I wish I had time to share some of the experiences, but like Provost had mentioned about the great inventions of some great people, when you go back into, if you remove the black man, you remove the essence of cowboy. When you remove that, there are no African-American horsemen. And when you remove that, you have no Western saddle. That was invented by William Davis in 1875. Your Western saddle, that geometry for Rogers, right? Yes, that's a part of history as well. So, myself being known as the African horseman, my brother Bilal Muhammad, and a few photographs I don't mind sharing with you, but with my horse, my two horses, Imani and Nia, I draped a very wonderful, very proud. I don't know if you've seen me in the African Street Festival or if you've seen me when I do my pageantry. It's not just in Brooklyn, I go around the country and do this as well. And I draped my horse with the Kente also. So all I can say is I know it's late for some of you guys. It's been wonderful, and I thank you, Professor Bennett, the library, Medgar College, for all this. Thank you.